welcome back to another episode of the Seattle Sports Show. I'm your host, Mikey, and we got a lot to talk about today. We're going to be talking uh, Mariners All Stars. That's going to be our main topic here in a minute. We're going to be talking, should Pete Carroll be a top 10 coach? Should be considered that. How are the Mariners doing record wise now? The Kraken, we're going to finish talking about what they did in the draft. The Storm, making some moves. Still not picking up wins, but making some moves, and we'll see how that affects the team. Sounders picked up a win, and the Rain, and how they did this last week. Okay, but let's get to our main topic first. Our main topic is going to be about your Seattle Mariners. Okay, and thankfully, Major League Baseball did the right thing. They named the Mariners All Stars, and we got a few. We already talked about Luis Castillo making the All Star team. Or you know what? I thought we did, but no, we didn't. I have it here in my notes. No, we didn't talk about it. Luis Castillo was named he was the first one named an All Star, and well deserved. Been pitching great this year again. Could have a better record if there had been more run support halfway through the season here. George Kirby, another one of those, has been pitching lights out. Just been amazing. So fun to watch George Kirby when he pitches. And again, all the stats are there. The numbers are there. Just except for the wins. Just, not as many as you'd like, just because of run support. And then, who else did we get? Julio Rodriguez. Thank you, Major League Baseball, for doing the right thing. Okay. The fans weren't able to get it done, but Major League Baseball puts him in. And yes, it did take a couple of people stepping out and getting hurt. That there was a place available for Julio to be named to the team, but it's right. Yeah, Mike Trout, he's injured. He's not. He's not going to be around. I think they're saying he's going to miss up to like 8 weeks. So obviously he's not going to make it to the All-Star game. Julio steps in as he should have been there in the first place. And then what we also know is that he is going to be facing Pete Alonso in the first round of the Home Run Derby. Now, what do we think about that? Again, we know Julio had knocked him off of, in a round last year to not knocking Peter Alonso off of being home run derby king again. But it does seem like that would be because of both of these stars being really good in, one's got a history of being good in the home run derby. Julio has just the 1 year, but already has that reputation. A lot of people felt like, hey, well, he hit way more home runs than anybody else in the home run derby last year. He was the real king, anyways, even though he didn't win the final round, right? Well, you think they would have set it up to where Julio and Pete could have faced each other again deeper into the thing, or maybe even set it up potentially where you could have them be facing off against each other, in the final round. You think you might set the bracket up that way, but they have them against each other in the first round. I mean, that's something baseball needs to think about, right? About how are you going to present these things that there's a storyline and drama there. I'm really big into wrestling. I'm a big wrestling fan, and it's scripted. It's sports entertainment. So you would set up a bracket to where you go, oh, well, these guys aren't facing each other in the first round, but when they start advancing, they're going to eventually have to face each other. That's going to be a really cool one to see. You'd think baseball, you can't guarantee a performance, but you would think Julio and Alonso are going to do really good in the home run derby. So maybe you put them against some of the people that you would think maybe they're here in the home run derby, but they're not going to put out bombs like Rodriguez and Alonso. So you put them against those guys in the first round, and then you see, okay, Rodriguez and Alonso, they're getting deeper, they're getting closer to the final round. Then somewhere along the line, then they face each other. But you know, it should be a fun first round to watch at least, and then we'll see where it goes from there. So there you go. That's your All Stars for the Mariners. Pretty exciting. Again, because the game, we're just 5 days away now from the All Star game, and again, it's here in Seattle. So it's, you know, fun to know that we have some All Stars there that will potentially be playing in the game. They should play in the game. I think Julio will get in the game at some point. Again, he wasn't named one of the starters because that was based off of fan voting. But, I would think that he's going to get in the game at some point, and that the crowd should go really wild to see him. I mean, because he's not just a big name in baseball. Again, like I've said, if you pay attention to Major League Baseball, you know that the MLB is really big behind Julio as well. Like, they want him to be one of the faces of baseball because he's really fun to watch, and he's young, got personality, just the type of player that you want to help. And he seems to be a good guy. So this is the type of player that you want to see, you know, uh, kind of being that guy that ushers in the next fan base of baseball. The kids, that you want to that are going to get excited to watch baseball. This is the kind of guy that the kids are going to be excited to watch. Just like when I was a kid, we had, and it just so happened to be in Seattle as well. Like, everybody loved Ken Griffey Jr., right? A young guy with personality. That's the kind of stuff that gets kids excited to watch baseball. All right, so there you go. There's your main topic, all our All Stars for the Seattle Mariners. Let's go ahead and run through the rest of our order here. First up is going to be the Seahawks. All right, and it's the slow time of year. There's no camps happening, no training camps, no OT, nothing going on. So this is the slow time of year for football, where everybody's just putting out lists. And again, I just hate to keep talking about these guys, but the Pro Football Focus again puts out a list, okay? And what's the list they come up with? Top 10 coaches. And you want to know, okay, so where does Pete Carroll land on these rankings? Okay, everybody wants to know. Okay, well, right, where are we going to go? Where are we putting Pete Carroll in the top 10 heading into the 2023 season? Is he the best coach? No, he's not number one. That goes to Andy Reid, and for good reason. He's got the number one offense. He's winning Super Bowls in recent years. He's always been a dynamic play caller, right? So well deserved there. Bill Belichick, the Patriots. Hey, they have the history, right? They have the history, or he has the history of being a great coach. So you want to say he's number two? And again, this ranking is just for 2023, who they think the best coaches are going to be heading into 2023. All right, Bill Belichick, that makes sense at number two. He's got the history, but hasn't been super great since Tom Brady left, but he's still been good, not always making the playoffs, but I guess because of the history of what he's done in his career, they put him in at number 2. Is Pete Carroll going to be number 3? No, Mike Tomlin gets that spot. The Pittsburgh Steelers. And again, makes sense. A guy who's been a really consistent coach year in and year out throughout his entire career. He's won Super Bowls. He's done more with teams that, sports media like Pro Football Focus have thought were lesser teams, and he's done more with them. So okay. Number 4. That sounds like a good spot for Pete Carroll, I think. But no, it goes to Kyle Shanahan of the San Francisco 49ers. Yeah, okay. The 49ers are good. Do they win anything? Somebody remind me when the last time was they won a Super Bowl. Been a long time, hasn't it? Okay. So Kyle Shanahan gets number 4. Okay, very interesting there. Number 5, John Harbaugh. So still no Pete Carroll. Okay, but John Harbaugh, okay. Again, I get it. He's got the history, right? We're seeing a lot of coaches here in the top 5 that have a history of doing really well, in the NFL. Maybe not even always the greatest years of recent times, but consistently do well. Sean McVay, number 6. Okay, won a Super Bowl a couple of years ago, and now that they don't have a super team anymore, you have a lot of players that they brought there who were older, who are aging out, or some of the players that they had who were younger superstars have now left because of contracts. Again, somebody who proved that he could do it with a all-star team. I don't know how much his coaching has showed that he deserves to be above Pete Carroll. So you're thinking maybe Pete Carroll's going to be 7. But no, that goes to Doug Peterson of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Okay. Again, I'm not sure about this one. Do I like Doug Peterson? I think, yeah, he's a good coach. And again, they are talking about history in here. They talk about, if you read their reasoning for ranking the coaches this way, they talk about Peterson winning the Super Bowl in 2017 with Nick Foles as the quarterback. And I just don't know what that has to do with coming into this year. Okay, like maybe if he already proved that he could turn Trevor Lawrence around, this guy that was like seen as the next Peyton Manning type. Okay, that's what people were comparing him to when he came out in the draft. If he helps him around that way, then I would understand. Okay, yes, he came in, he got the job done, and that proves that he's one of the best coaches. We haven't actually seen that yet, so I don't know. They are assuming that is going to happen, so their assumption puts him in at number 7. Okay, number 8, Pete Carroll, maybe? No, it's not. Nick Sirianni of the Eagles. Okay, again, here we go. They just made it to the Super Bowl, and then for me, this team and the Eagles organization throughout my lifetime has been run really well. This team drafts well, they sign free agents well. The organization is run really well. Sirianni's got a ton of all-stars there, right? Again, this is like this is one of the teams that you would love to have this roster as your team, no matter what team you are, from what city you are from. You'd be like, oh, if I had that roster, that would be really, I would love to have that roster on my team. You would trade your roster for this roster because they're so good. So I don't really know what that says about Nick Sirianni's coaching. He's got a lot of great players there already. I don't know if he can prove. I mean, we're going to watch over the next 5 years as some of these players' contracts start kicking in, especially Jalen Hurts with his new contract, that extension that he signed. Once that starts kicking in and some of these other players have to start leaving, then we're going to see if if the coaching is really up to snuff. But to this point, I don't know how Sirianni proves that he's the number 8 coach above Pete Carroll. So let's go to number 9. Sean McDermott, Buffalo Bills, still no Pete Carroll. And what in the world's going on? Well, I don't know. Again, the Bills have been good year in and year out, making it to the playoffs year in and year out. Do they make it to the Super Bowl? No, they don't. Again, as a fan myself, I want a team I know is capable of getting to the Super Bowl, and you know that with the Bills, they are capable of getting to the Super Bowl. So I think that should almost be an indictment on Sean McDermott here, right? That he has not been able to get such a talented team to the Super Bowl. 4 straight playoff appearances, but no Super Bowl appearance. I'm not saying you got to win one, but this is definitely a team that should have been good enough to get here by now. Okay, and then number 10, you think Pete Carroll's got to be a top 10, right? Nope, not according to Pro Football Focus. They have Brian Daboll in here. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. So the New York Giants. I forgot that they even made the playoffs last year. They did make the playoffs. For some reason, I thought they didn't. They were one of the other wild cards. Okay. Yeah. I don't know where they get from this. Again, this is the problem with people who are too deep into stats and are just like stat nerds, right? They go from the expected points per pass, went from negative 0.197 to 0.026. Okay. So because they scored some more points more often last year than the horrible team that they have been over the years, that makes him a top 10 coach. Again, this is going to be a year. I don't know if he's going to be coaching them well enough to. It would take a lot for them to get into the playoffs again this year. I just don't. I don't get this one. I don't get how Pete Carroll, again, here's a coach, year in, year out, makes the playoffs. Been to multiple Super Bowls. Okay. Look at that list again. There are people on this list that did not make the playoffs in recent years. Last year, in fact. Okay. So how do you keep somebody who, again, Pro Football Focus, I think they had, I didn't look it up to confirm, but I think they had Seattle winning like 3 games last year in their predictions before the season started. We all know what happened. They won 9. They make the playoffs. That should count for something. The coaching is a big part of that. And again, looking at what they have on the list, they definitely took history into context. Now, the guy that made this list, let's see here. Did they put the? Oh yes, here Trevor Sikkema responded to Brock Heward of 710 ESPN saying, because Brock Heward was wondering if this guy like made a mistake or maybe just forgot that Pete Carroll was in the league, and this guy said no. He doubled down and said no, Pete Carroll's not top 10 because he's a defensive coach, and the defense for for the Seattle Seahawks was not good. Okay, so they were low in Pro Football Focus's rankings. Uh, Defense. Coach Pete Carroll is the head coach. He's not just the defense coach. Okay, he's a defensive minded head coach, but he should be. If we're looking at head coach, he should be given credit for everything that's happening. Right? He should also be getting credit for what's happening on the offensive side of the field, and uh, you know, he's not the offensive play caller, but he's the one that's making those decisions with the offensive play caller and coming up with what the plan is. Right? Um, I mean, if you are giving credit to Brian Dayball for turning the Giants around from like a negative 0.197 to a 0.026, then why are you not giving credit to Pete Carroll for the offense looking as good as it did last year? It just doesn't make sense to me. But we all know these guys at Pro Football Focus are fools, anyways. They come out with these lists every year, and then if you look at their lists at the end of the year, they are always wildly off. Again, I think that's just what to me, they're not even the best stats site out there. Okay, there's lots of great stats sites out there. NFL Savant, Pro Football Reference, those are great sites. I think people talk about Pro Football Focus a lot because they actually have a really good presentation, very slick, right? Very user friendly. So it gets talked, and they're very active on social media about putting these lists out and getting people talking about them. So I think that's why they get talked about a lot among casual fans. But I don't think people who really know football that well and are deep into football really use their stats or use their site for getting their information. But they at least put out a lot of things that get fans talking, so they're good in that way. That's fun. All right, that's your Mariners. That's Pete Carroll. I cannot believe he's not considered a top 10 coach this year. But let's move on to again, we're going to talk about the Mariners again, and we'll talk about what they did on the field this week. All right, so on the field, the Mariners were great this week. You know what? Actually, before we talk about what they did on the field, we got to say, because just in 3 days from now, from this recording, the MLB draft is happening. Jerry DiPoto saying that this is a really deep draft we have coming up. Again, it sounds, when I've heard different draft, again, this is another one where I don't know all these amateur baseball players coming up, whether out of college or out of high school. I don't know them. But when I've heard people talk about it, it sounds like similar to this year's NHL draft, where it's filled with talent. It's going to be really deep. Okay, unlike NFL's draft this year. We've heard John Snyder talk about this in years past. It was hard for them to draft in years, the Seahawks, that is, where they were like drafting in the 20s, because there are years where you look at a draft and you say, oh, well, there's really only 5 guys in other years in this draft that would be worthy of being a first round draft pick, but there's 32 picks in the first round, so you got to pick somebody, right? And we're looking at the NHL draft this year. They said, it was actually like, it was deep. It went like there was enough players in the NHL draft that it was beyond how many picks there were in the first round. And they're talking about that like that in the MLB draft this year, where this could be like 2 rounds deep, where you're still getting like great talent into the second round, which is going to be really great for the Mariners, because we have 3 picks in the first round itself. So it should be really exciting to see what the Mariners pick up and how they're going to shape the future of this franchise. We know what a good job they do at uh, drafting and developing pitching. So we have a lot of talent in the farm system at that already. Uh, Again, we've seen the inconsistency with the bats. So apparently, there's a lot of great offensive uh, power and ability in this draft. So, do we see them pick up a star second baseman, you know, in this draft and sure that position up? We're gonna see. I'm really excited to see what they do in this draft. Uh, Other moves that the Mariners made before we get into the games is they claimed Mark Matthias off of waivers from Pittsburgh, and they traded Trevor Gott and Chris Flexen to the Mets. They received left-handed pitcher Zach Muckenhern. You're thinking, okay, so why did they make that move? Okay, well, we know how they develop pitching. Maybe Zach Muckenhern, we're not expecting him to be anything, but maybe he develops into something nice. We'll see. But for them, they unloaded $4 million. Trevor Gott and Chris Flexen. I believe I saw that saved them about $4.5 million because the Mets agreed to take on those salaries and pay the remainder of those. And now you're thinking, oh, I know the normal Mariners fan is going to be thinking, oh, well, great, that's just the organization trying to save money again. And maybe that will be the case. Maybe that will be right. But we also know that teams are starting to designate players for assignment. Trade deadline is coming up fast. Okay. Are they making this kind of move to make so that they can be prepared to make a move to sign somebody who's designated for assignment when they claim them off waivers, or, clear that space for making a trade? That is what I am hopeful for. That and the timing of it, that's what it seems like to me. I saw everybody talking about Nelson Cruz. He was DFA'd. People would love to see Nelson Cruz back here. I get that. I don't know if he's really going to be the right answer. I mean, he could be, a permanent DH, which the Mariners did not go into the season having. They were, planned on platooning that. If you sign Nelly Cruz here, he's not gonna be out in the field, so he would only be DH. But there have been rumors that there hasn't been a great veteran voice in the clubhouse this year. So does he provide that? That is something we wouldn't know either until he got here and was with the team. But is that something the Mariners would do? Do they think that's worth it? We saw that Lane Thomas is up for trade. Okay, so is it possible that they would make a trade for Lane Thomas with the who we just saw here recently? Over there with the Nationals, and we saw how good this guy can be. And the rumor is out there that the Nationals are looking for pitching prospects. And again, the Mariners have a ton of those. So is that a move that they would make this year? We're going to have to wait and find out if the Mariners really put themselves in the position to make something like that happen. Are they going to keep winning, or are they going to go on a losing streak before the trade deadline and not make it? Is Jerry Dipoto at that point going to say, well, it's not worth my while because we're not going to contend this year anyways? They're going to have to keep winning. So let's talk about what they did this week and what their record is now. So they started out since the last recording we did, they had a loss to Tampa Bay, 15-4. Oh my gosh, this was bad. And what was really the biggest bummer about it is Bryce Miller was killing it out there. I was like, at home myself, I was calling him Miller the Killer because he was just like mowing people down at the plate. And then he got a blister on his finger and then he lost it. He couldn't control the ball once he got that blister. He gave up a 2-run homer, and they had to pull him after 3 1/3 innings. And yeah, that was just that was a bummer because the Mariners fell apart after that. I mean, it felt like we were, um, that we were on our way to winning that game because it was, I think it was 4-0 when that happened. So it was like, okay, great, pitchers dealing. We got the bats early, right? It happened early. Tom Murphy had had a 2-run home run in the second. Come back out. We scored 2. We got their best pitcher out in 3 innings, and then like I said, unfortunately, Bryce Miller went out with a blister in 3 1/3, and then we fell apart after that. The Tampa Bay scored 15 unanswered runs the rest of the game. The boos were raining down. It was horrible. Let's just move on from that one. Let's get on to the next Tampa Bay game, which was a win, 8-3. George Kirby was pitching. We had Mike Ford getting RBI. He's been hot lately. He got an RBI in this game. JP Crawford hit a home run. Kellenic had an RBI. It was a good game. This game, I don't think. I'm trying to remember. One of these games, I didn't see because I was actually at a. I got to go to a couple Aqua Sox games this last week. But I don't have any notes for this one, so I assume this must be one of the ones that I was at Aqua Sox game for. But it was good that they picked up that win against Tampa Bay there. And then our next game, Castillo was pitching. He was really good to start, except for he gave up a solo home run in the first, gave up another solo homer in the second, and then he just looked blown up in the third. My goodness. Ended up giving up 6 runs total there, right? And then we thought this isn't Castillo, this isn't good. But then the offense started coming around. Eugenio get a solo homer in the second. France doubled to bring in Julio after Julio just doubled. And then we had a scary situation after France doubled. The next hit that came up, France was running the bases, collided with the third baseman, and they were down on the field. Thankfully, he was okay, and he was called safe at first base as well. So then Kellenic ends up getting a double on the next at bat, brings in France. Then Mike Ford comes up. He gets a single and brings in 2. And then that really seemed to once again the offense really picked up Castillo. He seemed energized by the offense, and he was able to start dealing from that point on, and was shutting Tampa Bay down. Then Tom Murphy got a solo stinger in the 6th to tie the game, and awesome play for defense. Looks like maybe Tampa Bay was starting to try to mount a comeback. Teoscar gets a fly ball out there in the outfield. The runner had already taken off from first, so Teoscar is able to get the ball back into first. He could have walked this ball back himself, but he gets it back into first and gets the double play. And then we had the bases loaded. Caballero gets hit by pitch, and that brings the go-ahead run home, and we end up winning the game 7-6. So that was a fun one to watch. And then the next game was really fun to watch. Brian Wu is one of my favorite pitchers that we prospects that we have right now. I mean, it's just fun to do the Ric Flair woo whenever he gets a strikeout. I just have fun watching him, right? And what a great start he had against San Francisco. We ended up winning this one 6-5. Quality start. Went 6 innings, only 2 runs given up. He was looking amazing out there. We scored a run on a pass ball. Julio got an infield single RBI. He's gotten quite a few infield singles this year, just like really running it out, getting to first base on those tough choppers that the infielders have a hard time fielding. So he's been great with that this year. Then later on in the game, Caballero comes in to pinch run for Mike Ford after he hits a single, and Caballero was just pure chaos on the base paths, stealing second. Colton Wong comes up to bat. He's showing bunt. The third baseman's running up the line. Second baseman is trying to hold Caballero at second, but that left nobody at third. Caballero sees that. Boom, he takes third. Just smart play. Then, I don't even remember who was at bat now, but somebody again hit infield chopper. Back to the pitcher. Caballero starts to take off towards home. They see him there. Try to hold him there. Caballero is able to run back and dive back onto third base and stay safe. To not only keep himself safe at third, but that that allowed the runner to make it safe to first as well. So now, it's looking great. Teoscar gets a RBI single. Oh no, sorry, Julio. Actually was up next here when we had first and third. He gets a double, brings in 2. Now we are talking a tie game. Julio was also able to get over to third. Then Teo was able to get that RBI single that brought in Julio. And now we are at that point we were winning 6-2. Paul Sewald came in, and it was a little iffy. It was a little iffy there. He gave up 3 to make the score 6-5, but he was able to get this final out here, and we won that game 6-5. That was a really fun one to watch as well. And then our last game against it wasn't the last one. The next game against the San Francisco Giants here, Logan Gilbert was on the mound, and I'm sure you heard about this because it was an amazing performance. Complete game shutout. Went the full 9 innings. We won that game 6-0. In the second inning of this game, Logan Gilbert pitched a 3-pitch inning. 3 pitches, 3 outs. Almost did it again in the 7th, I believe. But yeah, he just had the batters up there confused. They had a hard time hitting his stuff. Even when they were getting their bats on it, he was making them look like fools out there, and they were just hitting it right to all our defenders out there, right? Again, like I said, he was like only a couple pitches over 3 pitches in the 7th inning as well. So he was able to go, and it was cool to hear that. Once people saw he went 8, like they called over to the dugout, and the dugout, everybody was just chanting Logan over the phone. So they're like, okay, yeah, he was just Scott was just like, yeah, I was calling to say, yeah, he's going back out there for the 9th. So sounded like that was a really fun game for the team as well. Of course, we were able to produce some offense, which was good, especially again for that type of performance. Again, I think Logan is another guy that should have all-star considerations. Just the record, because of the run support, hasn't always been there this year. But Jared had an RBI single. We had a challenge for catcher's interference when Tom Murphy was at the plate, and that loaded the bases because it was ruled that there was catcher's interference. And then the next pitch was a passed ball, and Mike Ford was able to score from third base. Oh, and then we got to say that about Mike Ford in this game too. It was the 4th of July. This was the 4th of July game, and it was Mike Ford's birthday. He almost hit for the cycle. He almost hit for the cycle on his birthday on the 4th of July. He had four hits. 2 of them were doubles. He had a solo home run in the third. You know, I would love to see Mike Ford hit a triple, because I would want to see what in the world happened in the outfield to make that happen. Because something bizarre would have to happen for Mike Ford to hit a triple, right? I mean, he is slow. Okay, he is slow. So I would love to. I would have loved to see that happen. But hey, he got 4 hits on his birthday, and he's another one that you know, you're not expecting a lot out of, but as of late, he's been hot, and the Mariners need more people to be hot right now if they again want to stay in contention for that wild card spot. Julio had an RBI single in the 6th. Even AJ Pollock hit a homer in this game. He had a 2-run homer in the 8th, and that's how we ended up winning that game 6-0. Now I didn't get to see very much of yesterday's game, but that the latest game we had was a loss to San Francisco, 2-0. Tommy Milone was pitching again. This would have been the Bryce Miller spot, who's again, he's just been a killer lately. But you know, makes sense that they kept him out, right? He just had that blister. 5 days later, you keep him out. Then we have the All-Star break. That gives him plenty of time to be ready by his next start, and hopefully for the rest of the year. Hopefully, we're not going to have any more issues with that. And then where that leaves the Mariners, with a 42-43 record right now. Again, so just hovering at 500. But where does that? How does that? What's the outlook for us going forward? Do we still have a chance at this wild card spot? 100% we do. We're still only 5 games back. The Angels are falling fast. Again, we talked about Mike Trout. He's going to be out, they're saying, for like 8 weeks. Shohei Ohtani, injured. I didn't see what the timeline for that is yet. But you're talking their best 2 or 3 players out injured right now, and they were not looking like they were going to be a good team anyway. At this point in the season, they have been way overperforming expectations. I think that's going to start. It was already starting to come back down to reality, but now with their best players out, I think it's really going to start crashing down. Okay. Our next series is against Houston. I believe we got a 4-game stint against them. Let me double check here, just to be positive about that. Let's take a look. Let's see. Just finish this game. Yeah, Astros 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, our next 4 games before the All-Star break are against the Astros. Are we going to get a clean sweep of them? I'm not calling that, but if we could, that would be huge. Or even if we just take the series 3-1, then we're only a couple games back behind Houston, who again is still a good team. But right now they are catchable, especially again with them being ahead of us in the wild card spot right now, and we're 5 games back. If we could take 4, that's huge. Texas still leading the division by a lot right now. They gave themselves a nice, comfortable lead at the start of the season here, but even they seem to be, coming back to reality. I don't think anybody had Texas being one of the teams that was going to be winning this division this year, and the fact that they've started so hot has been quite amazing. But we'll see if they can keep it up in the second half of the season after the All-Star break. Not saying that we're going to win the division, but I think we have a lot of people in our division crashing back down to reality as we are getting hot. And I'm hoping that at least means that we will be getting a wild card spot this year. Again, my prediction going into this year is that this team, the Seattle team, that because we are in such a tough division, I thought, okay, this team is good enough to make the playoffs again. We are good enough for a wild card spot, just like we were last year. The only difference to me this year was we could do, because of the roster, because of the talent. Again, this team has not been losing because of the lack of talent, because of the talent on this team. I thought this team would be able to do even more damage in the playoffs this year and maybe make it a little bit farther, and maybe even possibly to the World Series this year based on the talent on the roster. They were not playing like it the first half of the season. It's been picking up lately. We'll see if they can get that done. Let's see if they can make that wild card spot. And like I said, if they do, the way this team is constructed with the amazing pitching they have and the damage they can do with the bats when the bats are actually going, my goodness, this team could be really dangerous in the playoffs this year. All right, there you go. There was your Seattle Mariners. Let's go ahead and we will head on over to the Kraken now. Okay, so from the last episode, the Kraken finished off their NHL draft. I should do a little housekeeping here and clean up. So, I said in the first round, our first pick at number 20, we picked Saleh, is how I pronounced it. I went back and listened again. It actually is pronounced with a. It just looks like Sale, so you don't pronounce it Sale. So I was like, okay, I think it's Saleh. It's not just Saleh. The S in the beginning there has a sh to it, so it's Chalet. So Chalet was our pick in the first round. So let's take a look. And again, I'm not going to pretend to be some sort of expert with hockey prospects here, but let's take a look at who we got. At pick number 50, we got Carson Rekop. Okay, and now this again, I'm just going to be totally butchering these names. Okay, what's notable about him? He was he won the award for best player with the Toronto Junior Canadiens. So that's good, right? Won a gold medal with Team Canada at the 2022 Hlinka Gretzky Cup. Okay, so there you go. Great offense power. Again, for me, I'm excited to see that because, again, just as a casual fan, again, you hockey experts out there, you tell me, but it just didn't feel like the Kraken have enough offensive power on this team. Number 52, they got Oscar Fisker Molgaard. He's a center. That's what I know about him. Okay, that's what I know about him. He's playing center, so I'm assuming this was another offensive guy. At 57, they got Lucas Dragicevic. Okay, he's a defender. So there you go, picking up some defense. Then we at 84, we got Caden Price, another defenseman. We got. At pick 116, Andre Lashko plays wing. Okay, we're getting pretty far down here, so these are all guys again that we're thinking, okay, they're going to be in the system, and maybe one day we'll see them in the big leagues, but we don't know. Down here at 148, round 5, Caden Hamill, also a defenseman. I guess he played with the Silvertips, so maybe some of you have seen him out there. We had at 168 Visa Vedenpa, who is a goaltender, so they pick up another goaltender to start developing down there. And we got Zeb Forshval. Again, I'm not gonna know how to say these names. So we got he's playing center out there. At pick 212, we got Zachariah Wisdom. A little bit easier for me to say that one. And he's playing right wing. And that was your picks for the NHL 2023 draft. Now, what are the experts saying? Again, because I'm no hockey expert. Again, still just a couple of years into diving deeper into my fandom with hockey because of the Kraken being here. The experts are loving what the Kraken did, and I love to hear that. Again, as somebody who, like, when I feel like when I watch, um, the NFL draft, I know what I'm looking at. I know what I'm looking for because I've been a football fan from like my earliest memories. I can remember, like from being like 3 4 years old. I can remember being a football fan, and I followed it my entire life. Hockey, I have no idea, so I got to rely on the experts and what they're saying and what these players look like. And everybody is giving across the board, no matter where you look, everybody is giving the Seattle Kraken A's for what they did in the draft. So that has me really excited for the future. Again, I just kind of have a little like uh, competition in my head going on. Las Vegas, sorry, I was already thinking about women's basketball, not the Aces, the Nuggets, the Knights. Las Vegas Knights. There we go. Now I got it. They won their championship within 6 years. Can we get it done faster? Can we win a championship within our first 5 years? Uh, and be the faster winning expansion team. I'd love to see it. I'd love to have the bragging rights to that. So we'll see if the Kraken can get that done, and we'll see, if any of the people that they drafted in this year's draft are able to contribute to that. All right, let's move on now to the Storm, since I was already having women's basketball in my mind. All right, so the Storm. We already know Jewel Lloyd, an all-star, going to be a starter. Ezzy Magbagor, named an all-star as well. That is huge. I think she's just been killing it this season. Again, to me, she's somebody I would like to see her take some more threes, be more of a threat out there. I mean, we know that what she does on defense, blocking those shots, getting down low, but I'd love to see her stretch the floor some more. Sometimes I see her out on the three, and I feel like, oh, she's got room to take a shot here. You know, I'd love to see her take some more threes and become more of a threat that way, and that would open up some more lanes, possibly for some other teams, for some other players on the team. Now, what else happened? They released Arela Gurantes. Okay, so we saw that happen. Why do they do that? Well, it turns out they are signing Gabby Williams. Gabby Williams is coming back to the Storm. She had some sort of commitment to one of the other leagues overseas, right? But now she's able to come back, and we're going to see how that is going to change this team around, or if it does, which is going to be huge again, because right now, like I said, Mercury won a game recently, and we're continuing to lose. As of right now, we have the second worst record in the league. Somebody like Gabby Williams can really change this team around potentially. I'm not guaranteeing that's going to be the case, but it could change this team around, and that could get us on a winning streak. Now, again, 8 of the 12 teams make the playoffs, so is that going to get us into a playoff run, or contending for one? Not sure. And at this point, do we want that? If Mercury keeps winning and we keep losing, that number one pick, Caitlin Clark, and then because we already see the potential that this team has. Okay, a lot of young talent on this team, but we see the potential that's there. So I don't know. I'm just saying. Maybe going for the most wins this season, or going for the playoffs this season is exactly what we need. The last game we had was an exciting one to watch, though. Not the last game. The one of the games that we had since the last recording was fun to watch. It was a loss to Minnesota, though, 99-97 in overtime. Again, up and down play all game long. This one, again, just not getting it done. A full performance for the entire game. Now, we did have an all-star performance from Jewel Lloyd. She actually passed Lauren Jackson on the all-time list for threes for the Storm. Um, and she's second behind Sue Bird now. Uh, so again, that's just growing the legend of Jewel Lloyd. And this was her fifth 30-point or more game in the WNBA this season. Nobody else has more than two. So yeah, Jewel is just like killing it out there. Again, now I'm just saying, if we keep losing, now can you imagine like Jewel Lloyd, Caitlin Clark out there on the same time? I don't know. That sounds pretty good to me. Sammy Whitcomb was really good off the bench in that game as well. And there was a late foul in this game on Holmes, and that gave her 6 and got her out of the game. But that was clearly a game. A foul on Doncic. So I don't know about that. That should have been a foul on Doncic. Holmes could have still been in the game. Maybe that would have been the difference. That actually would have helped us win that game instead of losing in overtime. But that's the way the cookies crumbled. Now, I did not get to see the last game. That was the loss to the New York Liberty, 81-66. From the highlights I saw, again, just not playing a complete game. And that was what happened with your Storm this last season. Let's move on to the Sounders. All right, and the Sounders, they won a game this last week against Houston, 1-0. Again, I don't know what's been going on with the schedule, but this was another game I was not able to catch the Sounders. I haven't hardly been able to catch any of the Sounders games so far, but they picked up the win. They picked up 3 points. They got 3 points in the standings. They now have 32 points in the standings, second place, only behind St. Louis. So I know they got another game coming up on Saturday. Hopefully they can pick up a win there and continue to climb up the leaderboard there. All right, like I said, I just keep missing these Sounders games, so I don't have much to say. I didn't get to see how that actually played out, but glad to know they picked up the win. Let's move on to our women's soccer now. Okay, so here we go. We had the Reign. Some big news for them. They signed Laura Harvey to an extension through 2025. So we got the best coach around now, sticking through a couple more years. And for us this week, we ended up getting a draw with Louisville 2-2. We were down 2-0 late. We were able to get a header from Veronica Latsko here in the 81th minute. In the 86th, we got another. Again, we're just scoring off the headers. This was like a double header off a corner kick. 2 players ended up getting the header there. That tied the game, and that helped us gain a point in the standings, bringing us to a total of 24. Now just 1 behind Portland. So this was an exciting game to watch because it just felt like, oh man, this is going to be a game where we end up losing. We're losing late, and the time was running down, and then they just really came on in the end and picked up the win there. So that was pretty amazing to see. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the Sea Dragons here. And we don't have anything to say about the Sea Dragons this week. Again, it's their off season. What we do know is that they are holding showcases for the next couple of weeks. So, I mean, if you're a player out there and you want to go try out, yeah, you make it to these, make it to one of these player showcase tryouts. Should be really fun to see. We'll figure out if any of these players are able to make it to the Sea Dragons. All right, but that is going to do it for the show. lots of exciting things happening for all of the Seattle teams right now, and I can't wait to come back for the next episode to talk about what happened in the time since this episode. But yeah, let me know. Are you happy that we got a few players named to the All Star game now for MLB? Are you excited about the draft that the Kraken just had? Again, across the board, everybody giving them A's. If you're somebody who's been a hockey fan all your life and you know more than me, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the draft. I want to know again. What do you think about Gabby Williams? How big of a difference is that going to make for this team? Are we going to be able to make a run, or are we looking at this point? Are we just looking at it? Hey, this is a lost season. Let's just consider it lost. We'll see. Leave it in the comments below if you are watching on YouTube. Leave reviews if you're listening Apple Podcasts or any other podcast platform. Make sure you hit subscribe or follow so you don't miss any of the episodes. And again, thanks for listening to the Seattle Sports Show, where we watch legends awaken and breathe fire. So take cover, because with the Sea of Sound, you will see us rise to reign supreme and win forever. Peace out.